This is EcoFlow's Delta 2 Max, and in today's video we're going to do an unboxing and complete test and review of this portable power station. Well, I hope that thing was packaged well because I think I damaged the box. Let's go get it unboxed and see what's inside. Inside that box we got the manual, which nobody reads anyway. We got a standard wall charging cable, a car charging cable, and a 5521 to 5525 adapter. This adapter would be for some special equipment that you might want to hook up to some of those DC outlets. I'm gonna go pick up those cables because I'll probably need them for the test and review portion of this video. I've got to stop throwing this stuff because eventually I'm actually going to break something. Among the top manufacturers of portable power stations, EcoFlow has recently started to stand out for their innovations and updates to their entire lineup. Today we'll explore the features of the newest addition to their Delta lineup, the Delta 2 Max. These past few years, all-in-one battery systems have undergone some pretty remarkable changes. They become larger, more powerful, and seamlessly connect to our other devices to let us know what's going on inside. However, EcoFlow has taken things a step further, elevating their lineup with two features I find particularly useful. First, let's talk about the chemistry upgrade. Lithium iron phosphate batteries outshine nickel manganese cobalt in every aspect except for power to weight ratio. However, EcoFlow has managed to deliver this powerhouse at an astonishing featherweight of just 50 pounds. That's nearly 10 pounds lighter than most comparable units on the market. Now, the second massive upgrade is EcoFlow's X technology. It has already been shown to work well in the River 2 lineup, but they've bumped it up with the Delta 2 Max. This innovation maximizes the device's input and output, enabling ultra-fast charging and can handle almost any load when you need it most. With extreme charging, the Delta 2 Max takes advantage of both wall charging and solar power, and when combined, delivers an impressive 1800 watts of input. Imagine harnessing the sun's energy and charging your device at unprecedented speeds. Plus, EcoFlow's X-Boost mode takes it a step further by unleashing a staggering power output of up to 3400 watts, ensuring high-demand devices never run out of juice. Of course, that's as long as your battery contains power, but with X-Boost mode, that should not be a problem. The EcoFlow Delta 2 Max is an excellent gas generator replacement. It combines the incredible portability of a lightweight design with the unmatched performance of X technology. Whether you are an outdoor enthusiast, a digital nomad, or simply someone who values reliable power on the go, this device is a must-have gas generator replacement. Now, instead of talking more about what the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max can do, let me show you. This is a huge array of devices that are basically the maximum power that I would normally expect to pull from a power station like this. The only two devices that I'm aware of that you wouldn't really be able to power in your home are a water heater and a clothes dryer. That's because they pull quite a bit of power. Some water heaters will pull 5 to 10,000 watts, and dryers run usually off of 220 volts. For today's inverter test, I do have it in X-Boost mode, and I have various devices here. This hot plate usually pulls about 1400 watts. This heat gun will pull about 1500 watts max. This little heater will pull about 200 watts. And this air compressor usually pulls about 1000 watts, but it has a startup load that will normally hit around 3000 watts and shut down any devices like this. So let's get this started and see what we can do. I'm gonna start with the hot plate because the hot plate usually pulls about 1400 watts. So that banged straight up to 1500 watts. Now this heat gun on max will usually pull about 1500 watts as well. So if I turn this heat gun on, because I'm in X-Boost mode, the display banged up to just around 2400 watts. And this power station will run on this load all day long. But if I shut off the hot plate, then you can hear that the RPM of the fan inside the heat gun increased. That's because the voltage inside of the Delta 2 Max is changing to keep power to these devices when it's in X-Boost mode. So this hot plate and this heat gun, I can run both of these devices. I'm pegging out at that 2400 watts. Now in X-Boost mode, we're rated at about 3400 watts max. So 1500 plus 1500, I'm hitting that 3000 watt limit, even though it only shows 2400 watts on the display. If I add that additional 1000 watts of this compressor, it should shut down the AC inverter. Let's give it a try. There we go, and it lasted about 1 second, so just enough to surge. But let's try something a little different. I'm gonna turn off this heat gun. Okay, so the interesting thing about this AC inverter is even though it shut itself off to protect itself, it is still cutting back on. So I don't have to manually go back in there and reset it. Obviously, I don't want to damage the device, so I'm not going to be running a 4000 watt load continuously or attempting to do it repeatedly with this power station. That being said, I'm pretty confident that almost any power tool that I have would be able to run with this power station. The internal cooling fan in this portable power station just kicked on, and it's not very loud at all. It's quieter than like your refrigerator would run in your house. The AC inverter in the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max can handle an impressive amount of items. There are other manufacturers that also offer technology similar to X-Boost mode, but keep in mind, when you have X-Boost mode on and you hit the limits beyond 2400 watts, you will have a different voltage coming out of the device. All right, this is a closer look at the back of the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. I'm not sure exactly what this little switch does right here. It doesn't turn off AC wall charging or solar panel input, so I don't know if that is something that is designed to maybe change voltage or frequency of the inverter. If you know, let me know in the comments. I'll reach out to EcoFlow and find out what this little button does. While we're on the input side, you can pump up to 1800 watts at 120 volts into the back of the Delta 2 Max. That's a significant amount of power for a power station this size. Plus it has two 500 watt rated XT60 solar panel inputs. We've already tested the AC inverter and there are 6 outlets on this inverter, which is plenty to power almost anything you can throw at it. I usually don't need more than 1 or 2 at a time, but if you are in a situation where you need to charge your entire family's devices, this could be a perfect solution for that. And then finally on the bottom, we do have a regulated 12.6 volt car charger outlet. In addition to this 126 watt car outlet, there are two 3 amp 5521 barrel plugs. These two plugs are rated about 36 watts each. Moving over to the front, we have EcoFlow's pretty standard multicolor, very bright display. These displays have all the information you need to see at your fingertips. It tells you your input wattage, your output load, percentage battery remaining, as well as an approximation of time to discharge or recharge depending on which one of these numbers is greater. The most interesting thing about this display is if I turn on the USB-C in the front, I don't get any indication that I've turned that on. However, if I turn on the AC in the back or the 12 volt DC, I do get an indicator that those two devices are powered on. This is interesting because being able to see that on the display prevents me from having to either go into the app or look at the back of the device. That's some pretty good visual feedback on the part of EcoFlow to let me know what is running on this power station. You can also see that I'm hooked up to the Wi-Fi through my app, and I'll show you the app in a few minutes. This power station has an array of USB outlets. It has 4 USB-A's with 2 just standard USBs and then 2 high-speed fast charging USB-A's. In addition to that, it has 2 100 watt USB-C outlets. And then the final interfaces on the Delta 2 Max are these 2 XT150 plugs. These 2 outlets can be used to connect to up to 2 expansion batteries rated at over 2000 watt hours each, or you can also connect this to the new Wave 2 HVAC system to use this as a battery source. This is a relatively proprietary connection that EcoFlow has, and it works great inside of their ecosystem. However, some feedback I've heard from users are that these cables can be expensive and that the expansion batteries for both the Wave 2 and the Delta 2 Max require connection through the XT150 cable to perform any recharging. When most manufacturers do come out with these proprietary cables, I've had a hit or miss relationship with them. For example, if the manufacturer decides to go to a different style of cable, then you might need to go through great lengths to find replacement cables. However, EcoFlow has been very consistent about using this XT150 interface for most of their devices. Overall, I would say that EcoFlow has done an excellent job with their redesign of most of their lineup for 2023. They have the lawnmower, the Wave 2, the Glacier mini fridge, several new power stations in the River lineup, and now the Delta 2 Max. This power station is a huge improvement over the previous model. And as far as tech products go, I'm excited to see what EcoFlow will come out with next. Given that this power station is pretty new, it does have a higher price of $1,899. Amazon Prime Day is coming soon, and there is a discount code in the video description for this device. I'm not sure of the exact pricing, but check it out, and it could be significantly lower than that $1,900 price tag. Now I'm gonna get this power station top back off so I can do my battery capacity rundown test. It just surprises me to see so much power being able to go into this power station even at 95% state of charge. So it is rated to take in up to 1800 watts, and so getting 1700 watts into the device from the wall is pretty significant. At this 1700 watt rate, we can see on the display that it'll only take about 4 minutes to top off the power station completely. So there's two ways that EcoFlow claims you can charge this power station. You can use just the wall outlet at that 1800 watt input, and it says that you will get from 0 to 80% in 1.1 hours. But if you combine that input with the 1000 watts of solar power, then you can go from 0 to 80% in about 43 minutes, which is impressively quick for a recharge of a device this size. The fan has kicked on to its maximum settings since I've been here setting up this power station for the battery rundown test. Overall, the fan isn't very loud, and maybe in a future video I'll get one of those decibel meters just to see how loud the power station really is. Well folks, we're fully topped off, so I'm gonna get this thing unplugged, get my watt meter installed, and what I'm gonna do is reset the watt meter and start the AC inverter at the same time. Before starting this test, I did turn my heat gun to around 400 watts, which is about 0.2 C of the battery capacity of this portable power station. And we'll check back in a few minutes and see what we get. The power station shows that it's pulling 433 watts, and it'll run for about 5 hours at this load. The load on my meter says I'm pulling about 410 watts. I always go off of the load on this meter because I standardized this test for all the devices that I test. So whatever I get out of this meter is what I consider to be correct. Keep in mind the Delta 2 Max might be showing you the actual cost of energy coming out of the power station. And what I mean by that is there are inverter inefficiencies that are drawn while the AC inverter is on, and so what's going into my meter does not account for those losses. All I can say is that's pretty impressive. We got 1,804 watt hours from this 2,048 watt hour device. That comes out to about an 88% conversion from the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. Most of the equivalent size devices I've tested over the last 6 months return between 1,600 and 1,800 watt hours. So this thing gave me at least 100 watt hours more than those other devices. What that amounts to is that you will be able to recharge a normal sized laptop with this thing at least one more time than you would with other similarly sized devices. So the last thing I want to discuss is this EcoFlow app. I am charging the power station after the battery rundown test, but I don't need it on hand so that I can show you its functionalities. I'm currently getting 1.73 kilowatt hours back into the EcoFlow from the wall outlet. You can rename the device, which for my YouTube channel, I love to have Off-Grid Adventure as the device name. For device sharing, you can have the email address of someone else that you would like to have access to the device. You can also turn the beep on and off, and then going into energy management, you can control the points at which the device turns off for low power, as well as when you want it to stop charging under high power. You can limit the input to the XT60 connectors for both input 1 and input 2, and the reason you might want to do that is if you have an older vehicle that can't support that 8 amp load, or if you're sharing that outlet with something else like a phone charger in addition to the charger on the power station. You can turn X-Boost mode on or off. I'm just going to leave it on because if I'm pulling that much power anyway, then whatever I have hooked up needs the power that it will get. I like to keep the unit timeout to never, and the reason for that is because sometimes if you have a load that pulls a very low amount of power, the device will think that there's no load there at all and it can shut off. I haven't had that problem with this power station, but just to be safe, I'll leave it to never. And I don't necessarily want the screen to be on for a long time, but for the purposes of the video, I like to keep them on either never or a high amount of time so that it doesn't shut off while I'm filming. We have AC timeout to never, and we also have 12 volt DC timeout to never. The 12 volt DC is usually where I experience these problems when I have a mini fridge hooked up, and sometimes when it's cold and dark out, those fridges don't cycle throughout the night, causing those devices to shut off. That should not be a problem with this setting. Firmware, while I'm at it, I have the firmware updated. That'll be the last big note I would like to make about EcoFlow. I've been testing their products for about a year now, and one thing that they are very good at is sending out updates. They have updated firmware repeatedly on all of the devices that I have. And you might say to yourself, well, why don't they have the bugs worked out before they ship these devices? Well, they have all the bugs worked out that they know about. As users start to encounter new problems, they roll out firmware updates that address those problems. It's been stuff like when they first came out with the River 2 lineup about a year ago before it went to the public, occasionally you would hook up a solar panel to some of the devices and the fan would just run continuously even with no solar power coming in, causing the devices to drain. After a couple of weeks, that firmware update came out and that problem was solved. So now you can leave a solar panel hooked up and now the fan will only run when it's necessary for heat management. Okay. Overall, the Delta 2 Max is a pretty good power station. I plan to replace the River 2 Pro that I currently have in my no-build minivan camper with this power station so that as I go on any trips over the next few months, I have that larger battery, larger inverter capacity, and it's all compatible with all of the other EcoFlow products that I already have. If you want to see any of those future videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about this or any of the other power stations that I've tested over the last year or so, leave a note in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.